French Special Forces were operating with us and they were out doing patrols and they got ambushed. They got rocket ambushed and took 3 casualties that day.
Hello everybody, welcome back to Shift Fire, the exploration and appreciation of all things military culture. I'm Israel Wright, former Green Beret, and one of your hosts for today. And with me as always,
thank you, Israel. What's going on, folks? My name is Cameron Fath, I'm a former Army Ranger, and you guys are tuned in to a new segment called Declassified, where Israel and I are going to talk about some personal military experiences that really molded us into the people that we are today and lessons we learned throughout the military that really helped out. I know you guys are really used to seeing Israel and I together, but for this segment, one of us is going to be off camera to kind of help facilitate the conversation and bring out those senses and the emotions that we really felt during these specific experiences and scenarios. So, without further ado, let's get into it. The story I'm about to tell you today, I think, is extremely important because knowing the current circumstance of the world, human connection is something that needs to be cherished. I was fortunate enough to do most things I wanted to do in the military, and one of those things was deploy in a combat zone. I was a machine gun team leader in a Ranger platoon, and we deployed to Syria in 2017. We were very close to Raqqa, which at the time was around 90% ISIS controlled. It was such an honor to be able to surround myself with such amazing individuals, and we had the British with us there, we had the French with us there as well. I just thank my lucky stars that I was fortunate enough to work with these other countries' militaries and see how their culture differs, and what I ultimately got out of it is we're more alike than we are different, regardless of where we're from. Around September, we really had a different mission set there. It wasn't a standard Ranger deployment that especially if you're in regiment, you know, we would go to Afghanistan when that conflict was going on and we would run Afghanistan. We would do direct action raids almost every day. You would sleep during the day, wake up, work out, eat, get ready to go on mission, do your job, and that would be your rotation. But this deployment in Syria was much different. It was more we were taking a military advisor role, so we weren't doing any direct action raids. It was more of a sustainment and a support of the Syrians that were fighting ISIS. There was no running water for the longest time. You couldn't drink it, otherwise you'd get sick. There was no bathrooms. We used wag bags for months, which is just a little bag you put on a plastic stool with some chemical agents that expand, and then you seal it up, and we had to burn it afterwards. So a lot of burn pits were going on. We were in charge of just making sure that place ran. We were in charge of security of that place, and we were also in charge of assisting at the CCP, which is the casualty collection point. Even though I didn't get to do exactly what I wanted to do on deployment, which is, do raids. Rangers are the best at direct action raids. But what I did get to do is a lot of medical training, and it's not even training because it was literally live tissue. We were getting anywhere between, a slow day would be like 5 casualties a day in the CCP. So I got a lot of time in the OR. I think by the end of that deployment, it was 600 hours of OR time. Not a lot of people that, aren't actual surgeons don't even get that. That's what I took out of that deployment. But one day, French Special Forces were operating with us and they were out doing patrols, and they got ambushed. They got rocket ambushed and took 3 casualties that day. And we weren't used to our guys in the CCP. We were used to the SDF fighters that, were doing the main push coming in after getting blown up or gunshot wounds, treating them. So it was kind of our first experience with, hey, we actually have like a soldier that's here with us coming in the CCP. So everybody just sprung into action. The CCP was ready before they even got even remotely close to medevacing him into us. So 2 of them were okay, but unfortunately, we lost one of them. That was a big loss, even though they weren't wearing the American flag on their uniform. It was a loss that was felt through the entire base. I was outside the room because obviously the French teammates were, they felt it the most because that's their brother. They went through training with that guy, they went through suffering, and you have that connection that you build with other soldiers. It was hard for all of us because you would see full-grown men, full-grown war fighters showing vulnerability, crying, hugging each other. I remember that specific day because I was working out and we had 2 gyms, one on the main compound and one in the CCP. When the news came, and I remember I was outside the CCP like, what the f is, I hope it's okay, and then the news broke that, we lost one. And I just remember there's like an image burned in my head of 2 of the teammates like bawling and hugging each other and, just comforting each other. And it's like, damn, that loss really echoed through the entire base. It didn't matter, if you wore an American flag on your uniform. It didn't matter if you wore a British flag, a French flag. We all felt it. Following that first initial feeling of loss and dread and, oh my God, what just happened, you have that feeling of anger. I think it's extremely valuable because those French dudes, following that incident, packed up all their stuff, went in the vehicles, and just disappeared for 4 or 5 days. During those 4 or 5 days they were gone, we received the most fire missions that we had the entire trip. We were usually shooting anywhere from 200 to 300 120 mortars a day out of that firing point. We received close to 500 to 800. Most of it was being called by these French guys because they wanted revenge. Even though they weren't our soldiers, we were all on the same side. We all had one common enemy, ISIS, right? And we were more than happy to oblige these guys. There was a sense of loss that echoed after that trip, but that didn't stop what needed to happen past that, right? It's just, you can't stop working just because this happened. This is war. This is something that happens, right? It's extremely unfortunate, but the biggest thing that happens is resiliency, right? The biggest thing you need to account for is, how do we bounce back from this? Is it worth wallowing in our loss? Or do we go and do we work twice as hard because that's what that guy would want from us, right? And that's exactly what happened. And in the wise words of an SDF fighter that came into the CCP with a gunshot wound to his leg, when we were strapping a tourniquet on him, he looked at us and he said, Daesh. And Daesh would be ISIS. That's one of the many names those son of go by. Coming from a different background, coming from a different country, a different culture, human connection in pursuit of a similar goal, there's nothing like it. You want to support those who need help regardless of where you may come from. Well, folks, we hope you got something out of this story. We hope that, you keep your loved ones close because you never know what could happen. We hope you bounce back from all your troubles, and we hope that you live happy lives at the end of the day, the way you want to. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Declassified. If you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you want to subscribe to the channel, stay up on the latest and greatest from all things Shipfire, that would be awesome too. Hop down in the comment section, let us know what you thought, or if you had a similar story. And finally, keep being awesome. We'll see you on the next one. 2 of them were okay, but unfortunately, we lost one of them. That was a big loss, even though they weren't wearing the American flag on their uniform. It was a loss that was felt through the entire base. It's hard for all of us because you would see full-grown men, full-grown war fighters showing vulnerability